They will, okay? It's just the way it is. A lot of times based on moon, based on tide, based on low pressure system, there's a lot of things that come into effect. But you guys need to line all those up and make it the right day. So if it's like below 1,010 barometer reading, I won't go. Even the weather's only 10 knots, I won't go offshore. It's generally crap. They just don't bite. If it's a full moon day like yesterday, they won't bite normally. Anyone go yesterday at all? Fishing? No? Good. Wasting your time perhaps. The swell's too big anyhow. But they don't bite on that full moon. The new moon, even the new moon day itself's not the best, but the full moon, new moon, 2 or 3 days before, what I call the quarter moon, which is half moons. I think you could bite time around those as well. But the best bite time is the next 2 weeks from the full moon, which is our next 2 weeks coming up. This next 5 days is crap because of the weather, but after that it comes really good. So I hope it will. I think Wednesday, Thursday is not too bad this week. So we will try and get it Wednesday. But yeah, so the next week is even better fishing again. So as that moon gets closer to the new moon, it's really, really good. Okay. And then you have a bit of a quiet period, as I said, a couple of days inside the new moon's okay. Then it's a bit quiet. Then once you get up to about the last 5 to 7 days before the full moon, the bite switches to afternoon bite because it goes from morning to afternoon because the moon rises about 1 in the afternoon. So when the moon rises, that's another really hot bite time as well in all your fishing. So you can be sitting out there at whatever, 10 o'clock in the day, nothing much happening. That moon rises at 1 o'clock, they'll just come on the bite. It's just the way it is in all fishing. Pearlies, snapper, and out in the deep. But my favourite fishing, as I said, is around that new moon leading down to it, which is the next 10 days or week's time. So you want that new moon is in the sky all day. We don't see it, but it's in the sky. It's above us, and that's when the fish bite. Okay, so that means your moon rise, even though you don't see it, it's maybe at 7 in the morning, and it doesn't set until like around 6 or 7 in the evening. So they'll bite all day. Okay, that's those good bite days that you get. So try and tee that up. Bit of a believer in moon phases, guys. Okay, and if you get the right weather on the right time, it also helps as well. Current's the other big issue. So current at the moment's really good. We've had no current for like 3 weeks now, 4 weeks. It's been, I think, probably about 0.6 of a knot max. I don't like the current when it goes reverse, which means it runs north. When it runs north, it's good for like yellowfin and stuff like that. You get upwellings out at sea, out wide, but it's no good for the bottom fishing. It's internal for a bit. So you want it always running south, or little current is okay too. The beauty of deep water fishing is for the fish side of things is that you just can't fish it normally between November and March because there's too much current. And once you get over about 100 metres, it's just too hard. Even with that sort of size, it just goes straight back. So you got to, in that situation, you need to drop your lead right on the spot, and you travel up into the current. So if you're 300 metres deep, you travel about 330 in free spill with the line still going down from when you first dropped on top of the fish. And then the boat drifts back on it, but your line just keeps going down to on top of the fish. It's just too hard if you're going to try and land on dropping your line right up there. It doesn't want to throw your line. By the time you get to them, the line's too far at the back. So learn to drive forward on your line in real strong current situations. Okay. Don't know if you've tried that yet, but it works really good. And now get back to the gear. So rigs. The rigs is where I want to start at. So with the rigs, we have 3 different types of rigs that I use. The rig that you guys all got in the bag is like what I call my mid-size rig. So that sort of rig I'll use from big pearlies to even to blue eye, but traditionally just bar clods, flame snappers, and pearl perch. And the line on this one is 200 main line and 130 branch, which is like a really good size to use. For the pearlies, I just chase some pearlies. I do downsize my hook a little bit more, and I run like an 8/0 circle, as in this fella here. These are made by a really high quality place, and the Japanese steel as well. I'll pass this around if you don't mind. Pass it around first. They're really sharp. They're really good. They're circle and they're lumo. But for pearlies, they just seem to really hook up rates to 100%. So you can drop your electric down or your rod down, hits the bottom. By the time you wind the slack up, everything's hooked, and when they're on, you get 3 fish straight up, which we'll see in the video a bit later. So have you guys watched the thing we did on YouTube at all? Yeah, and not watched it at all? Okay, so just
Probably my thumbnails to watch.
Okay, so just follow us on YouTube, and everything we do now, within a few weeks we try and post it up, and you can see exactly what we're talking about tonight in actual working, okay, and you can see how it's done. But with that sort of hook, they just hook themselves, and circle hooks is all you're going to use when you're deep dropping. It's really important not to use J hooks. So don't use your octopus style hooks or your suicide shape, we're going to call it. Don't use Oceanacy hooks, you just use circle and circle only. Really important, from pearlies to big cods, bass scraper. Okay, so that's the light rig. This is the medium rig. And the next rig we use is a heavy rig. There's some downstairs, I didn't bring any up, but so I use this rig here between 100 and about 300 metres, 350. Okay, once you go to 350, then you go into you go out of sort of flame snapper, bar cod, and everything else territory into blue eye, bass scraper, and bar cod again. But some of those, the biggest bass scraper I got 75 kilo that I've pulled up, but they get huge, and the hook size needs to be up the ante a little bit. You also need to, they got very lots of little teeth in there, and a lot of chafing, and you're taking like 15 minutes to pull one up, or 20 minutes. So there's a lot of chafing happens during that 20-minute time. So you need to have around about 200 or 300 branch, and about 300 main pound. Yeah, 200 branch minimum. Yeah, otherwise I'll shape it off. And the hook size is a lot bigger. I space my hooks a minimum of about 1 metre apart, or 1.2 metres apart. You don't want 2 1.5 metre fish stuck on each other on the way up. It's like a big bunch of grapes coming up. And my branches are around about 600 mil long. Okay. On the branches, I like to run as much Lumo crap as I can. It definitely does help. So whether it be blue, pink or green, it all works as long as it's Lumo. Okay? It's really important. And you'll see some guys run tube all the way down. I don't think that's all that important. I think it's important to have it around the bait area. And with your squid skirts, preferably Lumo is the go of some type. So in the skirts, the bigger, thicker top ones like that, I might run one of those on top of my inshore. Inshore I call inside 350 metres, okay? So I might run something like that. And then I'll always run that on the hooks, okay, that sort of thing, Lumo. But on my pearlies, I'll run those, or I might run those little tiny fellas like that. There's actually 10 in that bucket. I'll pass that around. And there's the ice and up beach. Just a matter, before I go too far, how many people here have been out to, say, 150 metres? Okay, and 350? Okay, bottom fishing I'm talking about, more than trolling. And 500? Okay, you've been out there, mate? Good man. Okay, and did you catch a few out there, mate? Did you get any luck?
I've got one bass scraper.
One bass scraper, well done. Yeah, and nice size, 30 kilos sort of average?
Yeah, 38.
Yeah, 38's good size, yeah. So the bass scraper rarely come in under about 20, I think I got one actually under 30. That was 30 kilo or bigger.
Yeah.
And the average size probably around 30 to about 50 kilos, yeah. And I've seen a couple of here caught around that sort of up to about 110, I think. It's about the biggest I've seen caught, landed. They're pretty big fish. And they taste great, you know. All the deep water fish, doesn't matter if it's 3 kilos or 2 kilo little tiny orange sea perch, or 180 kilo whatever groper, that are all really nice. The thing is, when you get over 200 metres deep, or say 280 metres deep, you need to filter the fish and then set it into a pan, and filter it, skin it, bone it, cut it into portions about the size of this projector here, and then set it in trays, and then cover it with wrap, and sit in the fridge for about 2 days before you cook it. Don't cook it straight away, just so much moisture in it, it just boils in its own fluid. So you even got lots of oil in it, it just actually goes crazy, and it doesn't work. So you've got to let all that come out of its body, out of its meat, and then pour all that juice out, and then cook it once you've done that. I think most of the restaurants probably wait about 3 to 4 days before they cook it, after it's been cooked at least. Pearlies and anything like, that's more the cod side, so I should say it again. That's more the cod side, okay? If you're catching flame snapper or pearlies, snapper, kings, like deep water stuff, up to about 280 metres, we get all those sort of fish. So-called kings are 280, they're called snapper 280. Pigfish, everything, the usual stuff you get in the 50s, you'll get out in that depth as well, in certain spots. Pearlies I haven't caught over 150, believe it or not. Got big eyes on them, but I just don't get them over 150 metres. But once you get over 100 metres, they get big average. They're not the little ones anymore. Really up to personal choice. It's up to personal choice. So some guys like lights that are strobe type and multicolour. They work. Most lights are water activated, so you just when they touch water, they start to flicker. This one's not going to flicker. Sabotage. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Should just drop it there. That's the go. Oh, we got a dart. Did you guys get this one? I don't think you did. Doesn't work. When Jack comes back up, can you get him to grab another one of those, please, don't you? This is going to be a bit tricky. Okay, it's that long one, same as that. So it's a bit hard to see here, but if you turn the lights out, just turn the lights out for just a minute, please, don't. So this is a strobe style. But just you can see it, okay, yeah. But the darker it is, the more vibrant it is, okay. And then you get one sec, like this style here, that are permanently on. They don't turn off. It's not non-strobing. That's my favourite style. I like those. Okay, but they all do work.
Is that just blue, or is it ultraviolet?
Just blue. That's just blue. But I believe blue is like the #1 colour down below. I think the spectrum, that's the colour that most those squids or whatever it is down there that are down there. That's their go-to colour that the fish are used to seeing and preying on. You know. So this one here is a strobe light. It changes colours. That's what that other one's meant to do, by the way. And they have different settings on them. But it's all automatic. You can't change the settings. They're just a different strobe. Hanging the Christmas tree, they're right. But yeah, that's the sort of thing. So thanks, Masako. So it's just up to you guys. Whatever you, actually, sorry, commercial style too. So this is what these are the long lines, that style for their deep dropping. Okay, every hook has like that type of thing. They go full on, those guys. Or that style there, which is just another type. Some of these strobe blue and green, some strobe multi, and these run off like just AA batteries. Okay. Yeah, you know what over that, Joachim? You're in the light industry, you might know about that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't sell any of those.
Okay.
So is that so that long guys can find their line, or is it?
No, it's attract the fish. It's attract down the hook, attract the fish. Yeah, they use big ones obviously on the buoys, I guess. So these satellite jobs on those. Everything here is sort of, including what you got, are down to about 800 metres, I think, in depth, right, without busting. We used to use years ago, before this stuff was available back in the 90s, we used to use just the silo sticks, the big long ones, and every time we used it, the boat was just covered in this brown crap. It's brown colour when it comes outside the silo stick, and because it used to, the pressure would split them and drip all over the joint. You just couldn't get anything strong enough to go to that depth out there, you know. So we don't use those anymore. We use this sort of stuff. The life on these, they're only like $10 or something, the cheaper ones, but the lives are around about, I think, 200 hours. And as soon as you go home, and as soon as they dry out, they just stop flashing. It's automatic. And they turn back on when they're auto activated. So that's your light system. That hangs off the top swivel, right at the top. So you've got your line. So on the end of your line, you have a wind on leader. It should start there, actually. So this is one set up here. Chris, I promise I won't damage it. So on the end of the line, we're using like 80-pound braid. Okay, I've got years ago, before anything decent was made in the smaller reels, I bought a big Mia Epoch, Z9 I think it is, SP, and that was back in about 2002. Because I had Tenacon bulls and they just wouldn't cut the grade. They were, in the older days, they were terrible. And you had to help wind the fish up no matter how big it was. And then my big one, that holds like 1,200 metres of 130 pound braid or something, but it's just too big. So I've got an 80 pound chair rod, which is quite a big rod, a lot bigger than this one. And you can't see much happening. Even if you put 6 kilos of lead on, which we do out in the deep and the current's ripping sometimes, it just still does stay straight, it doesn't even bend. So I look at it, I'm going to go fish out there or not, you know. It's not until you sort of see it move a little bit. Oh, it did move, there's something on there, pull up like about 30 kilo fish hanging on the end. So these days the rods are much nicer, the reels are much more compact, and things have improved vastly. So you see everything. If little pearl perch bites, it's fine. But if you get 2 30 kilo cods on, I'll just rip them up, okay? The reels we use, I'm a bit of a Shimano fan, but I do have divers, as I said. But the Shimano in the Beastmaster and the Forcemaster are 2 biggest sellers. They both hold about just under 1,000 metres at 80 pound braid. I was getting back to the braid size before. I used to use 100. I get 700 metres of 100 on. It's enough, but if you get busted off around the prop that day out there, you spent $300 in juice getting out there and back, or $400 in fuel. It's a big day out. It's stupid just to come home because you just cut your braid off. So you want something that holds a bit extra. So if you do chop off 400 metres of braid, you still got 600 left. At least you can get back down there again and keep fishing. Okay. So hence why I got a bit bigger size reel, like this size, and they hold enough line. So you got nearly 1,000 metres of 80 on there. Then we've got the wind-on leader. So the wind leader we use generally 150 pounds enough, and that'll work from in on the pearlies to out on the blue eye. It's enough. Even though you might be pulling up 200 kilos of fish or 150 kilos of fish at one time, which I have done. 130, 150 is the most I pulled up in one go with 3 big fish on it. But it handles it all right. The idea is you set your line at about 1 metre from the top, and as you get the fish comes up close to the boat, all these set to stop at that point, and it'll come up like a little elevator and slow down, then it'll stop, and then you just reach over and grab the line and gaff the fish in. Okay, that's how it works. How many people here are still going to do it by hand? I'm glad no one stuck their hand up. Oh, Chris. Yes, sorry, Chris. Brody made you stick a hand up. Okay, I have done it by hand out there only because 2 things. One is on the Mias, when their battery goes down or they lose their memory, you can't reset it and pull up. These you can, luckily, but the Mia Epochs you can't. And a couple of times we've done that and had to wind by hand 400 metres down with like 2 30 kilo blue eyes hanging up the end of it. And it's very hard. You've got to drive the boat forward and try and plane it up a little bit and then reverse back quickly on it and wind as much as you can. You might get 20, 30 metres and then it goes hard again, and then you drive forward again. Not too fast because you pull the line out, but just enough to bring that line start and come up on an angle, reverse back. And it's very tiring. So, but with these, you just go into the menu, and go to manual, click it on, and then it straight away reinstalls the power, like the up button, and then just push that up and up she comes again. So most of these reels, how they work, a lot of people don't know this. So people think that's the power. That's not the power. That's just the speed. Okay, it's not the power. The power's here in the drag. So all these reels are computerized, so they know if the drag's not very tight and it's quite loose, they're only going to apply that little bit of power to the reel, and it'll start slipping, and it won't apply any more power no matter how big the fish are. So if you're pulling up pearlies, which we always do, I don't set it very. You'll hear my line slipping quite often. The mode will feel like it's playing up. You think that reel's a piece of crap that's got no power. It's only because I've got my drag set really light. But if I go out, so a bit pearly fish, we'll always get our bag on pearlies first, and then we'll go out and spend the rest of the day looking for new grounds and catching flame, snap, whatever. Then I crank this up a bit more, and it becomes a lot tighter to pull out, and the power's straight away instant again. So when you hook the fish up, if I set it for fish that size, it'll come up and it knows the drag should be there. And if the fish starts pulling, it stops the power and the fish can pull, and then it goes loose again, it starts cranking again. But if I'm going out and catching cod, and I know I'm going to have at least 50 or 60 kilos on the end, I just crank the drag up a bit more, and just pulls them up. Okay, so it's all in that. So just remember that on your reels. Really important to know. The speed are very important. Again, on speed, you must remember that most of the speed is good in full flat chat if you've got no fish on there. Don't ever use it when you've got fish on, because it'll rip the hook out of their mouth. It's too fast. It's about sort of 100 metres a minute. So generally, if I'm fishing for every 100 metres, sorry, it's around about 5 minutes. So 3 or 4 minutes maybe. So I'm fishing in 200 metres, it's about 8 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes to come up. If I'm fishing in 300, yeah, it's like 400, it's about 20 minutes. So when we're fishing in 500 metres deep for blue eye, it's about 1 hour from the time I bait my hook up. It takes about 6 to 8 minutes to get down, and I've worked out still about 6 k's an hour on the fall, with about 3 kilos of lead on, sort of thing, something like that. So it's about 6 to 8 minutes to get down, depending on the current and the wind, and hit the bottom, you click it in the gear, and if you get a bite pretty well straight away and it hooks up, then push the speed up, you've already got your drag set. It takes around about a good 20 minutes to bring it up. Okay, so it's nearly an hour by the time you bait up and pull it up. So you can only do like sort of maybe maximum 8 drops in a day, in a big day out there, in the deep. But in 200 metres or 280, it's a lot better because you get double the time. So you're talking about 20 minutes down and up. So it's a lot quicker. So that's why we like to fish that 280 metre honey hole area.
Can you feel it hit the bottom?
100%. You actually feel it and you'll see it stop working. So it'll be ripping out. So to deploy it, I start there first from the top. So I've baited up all my baits. My sinker's sitting somewhere safe where it's not going to fall down and break someone's toe. And I've got my wriggles all rigged up. And when I put on my bait, I always bait up with, I use pilly, squid and mullet. And I find mullet works best over 200 metres odd. And it works terrible inside of 200 metres. That's down here, about up north, where you guys are. I think further north you go, once you go around Bundy north, mullet's really good bait in close. But out here, they don't seem to like it too much. You get little peckers pecking at it, but you won't get the better fish. So, but once you get out to 200 or 250 metres or beyond, the pillies and squid don't seem to work as good as the mullet. So it's just the way it is. So what I do, I cut my pillies in half all the time. When I'm fishing for, pearlies, I put through the circle through the eye of the pilchard, so it's just hanging there. And then I put on a piece of squid to retain the pilchard onto the hook. And I believe when the pearlies bite it or anything bites it, they mush up the pilchard, it's quite soft, and it just dissipates in the water, which really stirs them up, and they just come in a big whack and they hook up straight away on the whole thing. All those go and eat the whole thing. And with the cod, especially the cod, I use the pilchard still through the eye, and I put the mullet fillet on. I use a piece cut the size of 2 fingers, and I go through the thickest part of the mullet fillet first, and then one more back in through it. So you got the pilchard and the mullet through twice. There's about that much mullet hanging down, the tail's a bit of a flat, and that seems to really hook up really well as well, and get its bites, of course. Squid and the pilchards out there, what I tried it next to the mullet, I get bites on the 2 mullet, but the pilchards and squid doesn't get hit much. So just try it when you go out. So, but definitely use the pilchard, okay? What else can I tell you about that? When you do get fish on out there too, particularly in the cod country, Pro told us this many years ago, if you get a cod on, I know it's hard not to push the button to bring it back up and it's sitting like that and bouncing like crazy, but you just got to wait for that second. Just generally there's more than one cod in the area, always. And if you can hold it from coming up for just 30 seconds or a minute, and that cod, apparently, that's what he tells us, they try and spew out whatever's in their gut because they're hooked, and then the other cod come over and feed on all his crap coming out of his gut, and then they grab your bait and you get the second one on, or third one on. But it's hard not to push the button. Don't do it. So that's all I can tell you about the bite side of things. You will see on the video how it works, but Generally, if you've got a fish on, say pearlies, obviously that's going to be going crazy. They really bounce around. That's pearlies in closer. The flamies and that would be quite aggressive and bent probably around about there. You get kingies in the same area, and kingies bend about the same as flamies. Flamies fight really well, by the way. Flame snapper. Has anyone caught flame snapper here? Yeah. No, up north, mate. Yeah, well done. They're beautiful eating. Nice fish. Beautiful fish. And then when you get the cod on, they're like that. So they're in about that position, okay? And they're sitting on there like that, and they'll pull. But then all of a sudden you'll see it go like that, and that's the second bad boy on there. And that's when you push the button. If you want to wait a bit longer, you might get the third one, but you don't want to drop one off. I waited the other day. I got a little one on first, and I knew how little one was. I didn't know what it was, a cod or not, but it's only small. And I thought, then I saw it go like that, and I thought, well, I got one big one on. And I waited and waited and waited, and the third bite didn't happen. And I was like, I pulled up now. It's still on there. And about probably, I don't know, 20 metres from the top, it just went like that again. I was like, jeez. Because I think they, obviously, the line's loose, they can sort of swim around and try and dislodge the hook, you know. So that's the chance you got to take. Any questions on the rod and reel at all? Make sure you got a safety lanyard always on your reel, okay?
You reckon 60 pound leader for your lead?
80 I use, mate. Yeah, because if you're using lead and buying them, it's too expensive. You got to try and get it back. When you're in that country, sort of sub 300 metres, I find it's not too rough, it's not too bad. But I rarely lose anything. Over 300 is aggressive, like that sort of 400 or 500 metres, very volcanic. And it's like razor blades on the bottom. And if you've got, I find I lose more sinkers with no current than I do with current. With current sort of, yeah, when it's just straight down, it falls down a little crevice or something. It's gone ski.
So that leader to your sinker,
Yes.
How many metres do you?
Yeah, good call, Ross. On that one there, I use, I don't like, especially my mate's boats, they've got a nice boat, so I don't want that banging against the side of his hole while I'm trying to gaff the fish or lift the fish into the boat. So we make it about 1.5 metres long or 2 metres. It gets my lines up a bit high off the bottom as well.
Yep.
My rig's hard to make and expensive, whatever. I don't want to lose that. I don't mind, if you have to lose the sinker, you lose the sinker, but try not to lose the rig. Thanks, Jack. Cheers, mate. Jack, can you grab me one of those? Let's try this one's a dud.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, here we go. Okay, guys, here's the test.
That one works, yeah.
It does?
Yeah.
Was it the first one to work? Okay. I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you guys know this. Yeah, that's right. These are tuned in for salt water only. Who's onto that? Did it work before, Jack?
Yeah. It worked. I should put please, isn't it?
Okay.
Too cold, maybe.
Yeah, they are. They're designed to work, I think, over 18 degrees Celsius.
Sounds good. No, it's working too.
Is it?
Yeah. It's just not bright. It says working.
Oh, I reckon it's just that, the shipping of that.
No.
Turn the light out and have a look. That won't do anything, mate.
Yeah, well.
Anyhow, they're good lights, those.
Third the price of lunch.
Yeah. Let's see a dud back to you. So anyhow, yeah. So just with the rods and reels, it's up to you guys what you want to buy. As I said, I don't mind the Dyer and the 1200 MJs. They're really good. They're 2-speed gearbox and they're not too bad a reel. But they're around $2,200, I think, online. We just obviously do a bit better than that. And then the Beastmaster and the Forcemaster, the difference between those two is the Beastmaster, obviously the best one. It has a brushless motor, so the brush motor can heat up and slow down, but I've never seen that happen on a Forcemaster ever. I've seen it happen on Dyer every time, on the Tanacoms that is, but not on the MJ one. But the Beastmaster is obviously the best, and the Forcemaster, which is below it, around about sort of $400 cheaper than the Beastmaster. In rods, as long as it's bent butt and it's able to hold like P8 line, which is sort of in the 110 pound line at the max, and got a little bit of tip action to it, it's perfect. And if you want to just predominantly chase blue eye and bass groper and big cod, then you need to up the ante to probably a 100 pound braid. Even though it's only 7 metres, that's all you can do. and this is like to go full on bedding, because you're using generally 3 or 4 kilos of lead out there. And you go the next heavy rod again, which is the status heavy. It's P10 to 12, I think. So these, don't get me wrong, you still catch blue eye all day long on these, but if you just want to predominantly do that, and that's where you're going to go every time you go fishing is out to the real deep, then you really just need to go one up the ante one. Fish out there are all, except with the orange sea perch and the odd gem fish, they're always 20 or 30 kilos minimum or bigger. Yeah. But I don't use I don't take my big reel anymore, do we? Never take it out. So we just fish with the Beastmaster and the Force Masters, and I find they're enough. Definitely enough. Yeah, a lot easier. For those of you who have boats that may be, say, under 6 metres or around 6 metres, and you want to fish just pearlies or other fish out to say around that 250 metre mark, you can go something lighter like this type of thing, which is a plays reel. Plays like sub $1,000 for the reel, around 900 and something, and you get a rod that can be a little bit more softer on the tip, like this type of thing here, so you feel everything and see everything. You know, you'll still catch 30 kilo cod, alright, but definitely be good on your pearlies and stuff like that. Or you can put it onto one of those type of rods as well, the lighter one of those too. And they hold about 680 pound, which is enough for 300 metres. But it's a bit light and not powerful enough really for blue eye or bass scraper or a couple of really big cod. Any questions on that at all? Good. Okay. I asked before about hand fishing. I just wanted to ask you guys to see. Sorry about you, Chris, but this is just for Chris. But you only got a Stella 14,000.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a shot at hand fishing, like we always jig. My son Jack just jigs. That's all he does: jig. Well, I'm using the electric, but I'll jig as well. So we mainly jig up to about 280 metres. Yeah, 300. Yeah, 300 metres. I do want to get into jigging. It's my goal is to get a blue eye in about 450 metres or 500 metres. That's what I'm going to do after this year. But I'll be using more the overhead style. And I've got 4,000, the new 4,000 Oshia reel overhead. They hold about 700 metres of P4, which is about 70 pounds, which I think will be suffice. But otherwise, you've got something like this style of thing here, like a Saragossa 20,000 or a Stella, or whatever you got, and sort of that P5 line. So you'll understand how lines work, P thickness line. So a lot of the cheaper lines, like J-braid or something like that, P5's 50 pound. But in your better lines, P5 is like 89 pounds. So if you want 50 pound, you go down to like a P2.5 or 3, which is really thin. So it enables you to get a lot more line in your reel, a lot less current, a lot less sinker size, and a lot less jig size, and you can still jig in deep water with quite thin line. So we do use something like that for jigging, maybe a 300 gram jig. Has anyone here got a jig out in deep water? Before I go and spend too much time on this. You open? Yep. No one else?
Yeah, what are you using?
Sorry?
Say deep, what's deep? What do you mean?
Oh,
deep?
300 metres or 200?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So if you've got that top outfit, I like your outfit, perfect. You've got them too, Brody. But you want to run the 300 to 400 gram jigs. Okay.
Hard work, though.
Very hard work, that's right. But when you've bagged out on everything, you get some time to play around.
No, that's what you've done on electric.
Well, that's right. Well, that's already done its job.
That's why Jack does all the jigging.
Yeah, he's young, that's right. I know. But when you're fishing in, say, around that pearly grounds, in that sort of 120, 150 metres, you can use that as well. But we tend to use something like this sort of size here, so a lot smaller. I think that's got P3, which is about 50-something pound line. That's 60 pound leader. But we're using like the canis type jigs, so this type of thing. You'll see that on the video. That's the sort of thing we get our pearlies on, and they're big, like up to 70 centimetre pearl perch, so they go hard on them. And they're really great fun to catch on light gear. And it's quite easy to jig at 120 metres. It sounds deep, but it's not that deep. It takes you 5 minutes to bring one up, but really good fun. And seriously, the pearlies out there in that sort of depth, they're different to the ones you get in 80 metres. So the ones you get in the 80 metre mark or 50 fathom mark, you'll know where that is. Anyone here not know where that is? Yep, so you'll fish there. They're a different pearl perch. They're not the real big ones that you get out in the deeper water. They're just a residential small pearly with the odd big pearly comes over it up up onto the top of the hill, like Tambourine Mountain, and says hello to everyone, and then he goes back down again. But generally there's the little fellows. Once you get out over the edge and get past that sort of 95, 100 metres, it becomes a whole new world of different fish. Bigger, stable size pearl perch that average 50 centimetres and up to 70. I think last year Jack and I got a double drop. I think you were, oh no, it was Ben, another guy that day. It wasn't you, Brody. We got a 75 and a 73 centimetre in the first drop, right next to each other, in the dark too. Well, the pearl's a bit in the dark. But there's a lot of big fish out in that deeper water, in the pearl perch category. And they're very aggressive. They're very different to the fish in close. They just jump on a line and commit suicide. The trouble is the bag limit's 4. 2 guys in the boat, 2 drops, you're done. That's it. Not even 2 drops. If you run 3 hooks, you got 1 a bit drop. So you only get 3 drop downs. Because you will
Is
get
that 4 for the boat or 4 per?
4 per person. So I get 6 guys, 24 fish, which we had on the boat recently. And we actually got 30 fish. We threw 6 back that were over 50. And that was painful enough as it was. And the worst thing was we were fishing for the kingies. I saw Brady that day. We got one about 44 centimetres. That's not bad, Bill. That's really nice. We'll keep him. But he sat there while the 50s went back over the side because he's already dead. So he became a baby one. But yeah, so we only did 2 drifts that day, and we already had 6 fish over. We had 6 guys on the boat, so we had 20, 30 fish. But it's very easy to get your bag limit at the moment out there. Although there are days, like I said before, the moon's not right and the tide's not right and whatever, they will not bite. They will bite, but you're going to get little scatters. Okay. But if you want to go to Canis type jigs for that style for the pearlies, keep in that sort of 150 to 300 or 200 gram mark. Use the bigger 300s if you're going to have a go in that 280 metre mark, something like that. Or use your longer type jigs like that style, that type of thing. I did drop one of these out in 520 metres at Jim's Mountain many years ago with a 30 by Penn International on a land-based game rod. And I just did the big lifts up and drop back down. Actually, believe it or not, my mate dropped his electric down with 4 kilos of lead and they hit the bottom at the same time. That was pretty cool. So these things go through the water like a sword, So same amount of time getting down. 1 lift, nothing. 2nd lift, I got smashed. But those days, most of the assist hooks were only like that long, and no, we didn't make our own. We just bought them as they were, what were given, and they were terrible things. They were a big, heavy rope, and they were terrible. I had 2 lots of assist hooks on here, but I got scratch marks down the side. I missed the thing, but it held on for probably about 50 metres on the way up. Then I let go, so it wasn't actually. I don't think it's actually hooked. But then it took me about another hour to fight the lure to the boat. It was really hard work. I don't know if you know the drag on 400 metres of line in that depth. It's very, very hard. So be prepared for a bit of work when you do jig out in deep water. So I think you know all the gear. Okay, you know that. You know this. We've done the baiting outside, which I'll show you again in a moment. But on the screen here. But the important part is to understand where to go and how to do it. That's the most important part, and that's why I'll be here tonight if I was you guys. Every year, what we've done since the late 90s, and every year we learn so many new spots. We pick them up when we're trolling around in summer, and I'm forever looking at the bottom. I don't know if you guys, how many guys troll for marlin here? Okay, for those of you who do, when you're doing that, you should be watching the bottom. I know you should be looking for bait at the same time for your mates, so there's any bait around, Doug, you bastard, you're watching the bottom again. That was whacking me in the head. I'm watching the bottom, 20 metres or 10 metres, that's the way I do it. I'm forever just watching it, and anything that comes up, any bit of fuzz, doesn't matter what it is, a little bit of a slow dip and a bit of fuzz on the bottom, I'm zapping it, I'm marking an icon on the screen. With the advent of this year with that relief shading, CMAP reveal, and a couple of other ones which I think were written on here. At the back page there, Bathy Maps is the other one. I've got all those downloaded, but the shading and what's on the bottom is like off the Richter scale. So many times we've been out, say, we'll catch some flame snapper, we may go for a troll out further, we'll just zip out because we believe going by the contour lines there's nothing on the bottom there, right? Because we'll only have contour lines prior to this, and then we had sonar contour lines, which then made it more tighter and looked a lot better. But that's all crap now. It's like the old square wheel compared to the new stuff that you got. So we would go with those contour lines, and if it didn't look right, we just put the pedal to the metal on the boat and zip out and chuck our lures out, you know. So now I realised all that time I was going over what I thought was nothing is actually there's dips and rises and little canyons and ravines, and it's incredible. So we've driven over for 20 years, didn't know. So now, every time we go out, we go to that first black spot we can find on that map in that area, and we try, and most of the time we don't even get to that spot, and all of a sudden there's fish come up on the sand or a little dip, which looks like not much on the map, but when you get there on the sounder, it drops down like 20 metres, it'd be like 320, next minute 360, then it comes back up to 330. And it's like this little ravine running up like that, and it's like, I didn't know that existed. And then it's this fish, it's full of fish, and you drop down, straight away the rods just load up straight away. And we've been driving over these spots for years. And as I'm saying, you just got to try every little thing you can find on those maps. It's really important. The other thing too is to understand how to land on those spots is really hard too. So one spot in particular, which I'll go through the marks in a minute, but one spot just north of Jim's Mountain out here, in about 350 metres, it's very snaky, like a gorge that runs up. It's about 30 metres deep, and on either side it doesn't taper much at all. It's only about 400 metres wide, but it runs for about 3 k's. There's a little gap, and then it starts again for about 2 k's. And there's fish all through it, and I didn't know it existed. And so we found it last year in November, when we first got the CMAP reveal when it first came out. So we read the map straight away, and we studied it and said, okay, that's the closest mark to where we normally fish. Let's try there first, in 350 metres. So we went there, and we dropped down, but the current was doing 3.6 knots, 3.7 knots. And to try and drift something that's like a snake shape, not straight, in that current, getting close to that area, yes. Similar area. It's all, everyone can see it now, it's all there. That's how we found it. So, we couldn't land on it. We tried twice. We overshoot at that side, and then you go, there wasn't much wind this day we went out, but the current was just ripping, and it was variable wind. It was like blowing from the northwest, and we just sort of factor into drift that way, because we'd done a drift first. And then you drop down, and then it'd swing around to the northeast, and you go that way. And it's like, crap. And it takes a while to bring it back up again, so you bring it back up. And then we did this maybe 2 or 3 times over 2 or 3 different trips, and the current was always running, couldn't get to it. So we went out about maybe a month and a half ago, 6 weeks ago, when the current started to drop off to about 1.6 knots. And we went to the same spot, still full of fish, dropped down, and straight away we got really big bark cod, around 30 kilos, and we got a few of those. And then we got, I've always fished for flame snapper around that 280 mark, and I didn't think they went over about 280 or 300 maybe. Next we pulled up a 1.25 metre flame snapper. That was a big one. It was like 9 or 10 kilos. It was a big fat thing. Jack was on the boat that day. And we like, wow, I didn't know flame snapper in this deep. So it's opened our eyes up to the next level of fishing in that sort of depth. And we just like hit it, and then we had 2 drifts, that was it, it's enough. So we'd know there's fish there, you know. And then I met my brother Paul a couple of weeks ago, and we never got to that mark because we already bagged out in Bell Perch. And then we went out and we went to another mark in 280 metres, and I said to Paul, there's a bit of a contour line a bit of a dark shadow on the Navionics charter. So we just went straight to that. I had a mark about 2 or 3 k's up from where that was, and prior to all these maps coming out, a lot of our marks line up perfectly on some of these dark patches. So we obviously knew about it on some of them. But we only went about probably 400 metres, and next minute a little bit of fuzz come up, because a lot of it's like wireweed. You all know what wireweed is? It's like a coral that grows like a spring, like a bed spring. And it grows probably up to about 3 metres off the ocean floor. And there was fish on it, so we just, Paul's got that new Howl Master, which is really good. Have you guys got that on your boat at all? No, fantastic, just locks you on the spot. When there's no current, it's just like straight down, I'll do. So we dropped straight down, both rods, which you'll see in a minute. And that's the first time we ever tried that spot. and again we just fished it. We had I think 2 drops each, and we had 6 cod and a flame snapper. There's a flame snapper there too, and a couple of other fish. I can't remember the word. And like Paul's got a 2 metre long the big ice chill bag. It was like a big sausage on the deck. So I said, what do you want to do? You want to catch any more fish? We get pearl perch bagged out. So we gave it a miss and got out of there, but the fish are obviously still there because it's just loaded. So you've got to find these new spots yourselves and learn to do that, okay? And when you get to those spots, so we've worked out how to get to the spots. Now the next thing you do is learn how to drift it properly. When you're drifting it properly, you need to always do a blind drift first. You have to do that. So a lot of guys get impatient and they'll just go straight up, they go to the fish, and then they'll just stop and drop their lines down. It doesn't work that way unless you're lucky. It might work that way with the current at the moment, but there's no current. But generally speaking, it doesn't work that way. So you got to allocate wind, and you got to allocate tidal movement as well, and you got to face the boat in the right direction too. Don't just pull up and drop your lines when the line's going in front of the boat. It doesn't work that way too. So you need to ask the boat into the wind or the current, and you need to constantly reverse. So we do a blind drift first, which means we just drift for like 5 minutes. That's how long it's going to take the line to get down sometimes. We bait up everything, get it all ready. When we go back up on the spot, we go into what we think the wind's blowing, going based on our last drift pattern, just doing that blind drift. Go up into it as far as it can go with the fish on the sound until they stop, and then we turn around, and then we put them back into the wind, and then you throw your hooks over first, okay? And then you grab your sinker, and you throw your sinker out away from the boat a little bit, because as soon as that sinker hits the water, that reel's just going to go whoompa whoompa really fast. Most of the reels do have a sort of braking system on them. Like if you were to throw that onto a TLE25, it'd be the biggest mess from hell. But on the electric reels, it seems to not tangle much. And there is a setting on most electric reels that you can actually control the braking system, make it stronger if you're using really heavy lead. Okay. But I just generally push my lever forward a little bit, the throttle, and that sort of tries to engage the spool, and we'll slow it down a bit, okay? So, does that make sense? And yeah, your line goes down. Generally, I'm watching it, so if you got out, if I'm in, say, 280 metres, I've got about 240 metres out, my line's starting a bit of an angle. At that point, I'll put it in reverse, and I'll reverse up towards the line, okay? And as you reverse up, the line comes down, and hopefully it's just about in the zone, right beside the boat, and sometimes I even go past it a bit, so it's just to the front of the boat. And as soon as I pull it back in the gear, that quickly comes back to the back of the boat, and you've got, like, say, a knot and half a current. And at that point there, that's hopefully when you get the bites, and just watch the rod tip. And every now and then, I'll let out a little bit, tiny bit of line, just make sure it's just a little bit slack off, tight, slack, tight, just like you're bottom fishing for pearlies in close. Same scenario. And then if you get too much incline in the line, you'll need to then reverse up again and just bring it back down again. Because when the current's running, like, say, 2 knots or 2.5 knots, you cover a lot of ground quite quickly. But if you're drifting out here, a place called Jim's Mountain, our drift out there is about 3k long or 2k long, so it's quite a long drift. So it depends on where you are. So we're up there, it's only a few hundred metres before it bends. So it's all depends on that. Any questions on that at all? No? Okay. So, do you all understand Latin longs? Does everyone understand Latin longs? Anyone not understand latitude and longitude, how it works? So every time the number changes, just real quickly show you. So if your number's like south, that means the ones that run horizontal. Okay, that's it, running that way. And if it's east, it's the ones that run that way. Okay, so south, if it says 2743, and then you got 3 digits after that. Every time that changes, so it goes to 44, I've gone 1 mile south of that horizontal line. Okay, and there's 60 minutes before it changes to an 8 or a 6, and that 60 minutes represents 60 miles, nautical miles, north-south. Okay? And it's the same when you go that way. So it says east, then it says 153, 43. And they're just 1,000th of a mile. So when that changes to 44, I've gone 1 mile further east. Okay, So you can all understand that. So when you get look at numbers, I can tell you exactly where anything is anywhere, because as long as you know where, in our area, not sorry for you, Chris, but in our area, point lookouts on about 27, 23, I think it is, or something like that. Jumping pins on about 27.43. Seaway is about 27.56. Burley Head's about 28.04. Tweed Head's about 28.10. And Pottsville's about 28.16, I think, roughly. So, and if I look at any number there, I think, okay, it's 27.32. I'm close up towards Point Lookout and in my north one. So, and then out here, this is roughly how the bottom goes too, guys. So this is pretty well around the whole of Australia. It's the same scenario. It's some places a little bit different. But we out here we have a reef on the 12 fathom reef, which is around 20 metres. Then we have like the 17, 18 fathom reef, which is around 35 metres. Then we have the 24 fathom reef, which is like 40 to 45 metres. And it slowly tapers down like this to 36 fathoms. There's a ridge out there, 60 to 65 metres. And then out we have a little bit of like deep drag and that, which is in like 42 fathoms. But the majority of the bottom ramps up at 50 fathoms. It'll come up like 6 or 8 or 10 metres in certain areas. That's probably the highest pinnacles out here off the Gold Coast. And then once you get past 90 metres, then the bottom switches from that to like that. It starts to taper down really quick. So people say, okay, you know, I mean 100 metres on 40 k's offshore, it's taken me a long time to get out there. So if I got to go to 200 metres, I got another 40 k's. That's not the case. You only go about another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're there. And once you get to 200 metres, it's even quicker again out to 400. It's like 3 k's. It's really close because it's a lot faster taper. So if you are comfortable at going out to 50 fathoms, it's not that much further to go to 200 or 280 metres. 10k max out, we'll be fishing in the full on grounds, you know. Whereas you're out 40 k's already. So obviously we go north a bit a lot of time, or south a bit. The best grounds are off Point Lookout and off Tweed Heads, and south and north of there. And out the front here we're a bit of a, not a desert, but we're finding new grounds all the time, but it's flat in comparison to those two areas. Okay. So there's another little patch between around 120 to 130 metres. That seems to be the next little rise where we get a lot of our pearl perch. And then there's another one around 180 to 250, and then 300 to 350. But on the outside edge of this 180, so it's around 250 actually. On the outside edge of that, which is around 280, seems to be the really good fishing up the Gold Coast. So 280, whether it be off Point Lookout or off Jumping Pin or down off Burley or Tweed, it's just such a great area to fish for your flame snappers. It seems to be the honey hole for flame snappers. And also for, as I said, to get kingies and snapper out there. It's incredible. People got flathead out there, believe it or not. Caught flathead in 320 metres. It's so far. It's the deepest flathead. But at 320 metres, I start to get, obviously you get small bar cod in this area here, in 120 metres. We get your pearlies, you get small bar cod. I caught the odd big comet cod. I don't know. Not comet cod. I can't remember what they're called. Sorry. Small eye one, but they feed on the pearl perch and they're big. They're like 60 kilo, 50 kilo. They're huge. Caught the odd ones of those here, and quite often they'll grab your pearl perch and rake it, but you might not hook up. But once you get out to around 180 or 200 plus, and then you get into the bigger bar cod, which are constantly around, you won't get a small one, 8 kilos or 10 kilos, but predominantly around 15, 20 or 30. And your flame snappers and kingies and that. And then 300, 350, at 350 you start to get small blue eye, but I haven't really caught much inside about 380 actually. But you will get them out there, but you'll still get your flame snappers as we're learning. Those same fish here are out there too. At 400 to 500, it's bar cod, as I said earlier, bar cod, blue eye and bass groper. But I've just, my next fish I want to get is Alphonse, and Alphonse is like a big red, you know what sweep, you don't know what sweep is, that grey looking fish? Imagine that red but about 4 or 5 kilos. That's the alphons, which are really nice to eat. Okay, the flesh is a bit red, I think, as well. They're in that sort of country, and you get ruby snapper. So ruby snapper are like a flame snapper but bigger again. Okay, they're a little bit of a box head. They're like a green jobfish, but they're red colour. You get rubies at your way? Yeah. So the rubies out here, I've taught a guy the other day down on Tweedway, and they get them out in 600 metres, he said, but they're 30 kilos, so they're big ones. So I've yet to find those, and they won't share the information with me, but that's all right, I'll find them. I'll hunt them down. But they're between 400 and 600. Okay. Anyone here caught a blue eye yet? Anyone caught a blue eye? No? Okay, you guys are going to get them, don't worry, you will get them. You just got to get there and do it. But the blue eye, the next 5 months is the best time. So right through to, actually one of my best blue eye catches in November before the current come in really bad. But that day it's running about 2.5 knots. And I was at Jim's Mountain, and we did really well. But yeah, they'll be the next sort of 5 months. So you've got 5 months to go hard, guys. Okay. Any questions on that at all? No? You guys are all quiet compared to the last lot of guys. Don't be shy. Okay, so we covered the gear, covered that, done the bait. I think I'll watch a video.
What do you get in that 1,000 metres?
1,000 metres, okay. Just quickly before I get Jack there, if I go here. I have dropped this twice, so that's Mix Mountain out here. It comes up about 300 metres, comes up to about 780 on the top. It's covered in fish. I didn't know until the charts came out. We always fish the east side of it, where it drops off really quick, drops off to like 1,200 metres or more, just keeps going down. So it's a 300 metre rise, which is a really big mountain. It's just, for 200 metres on the bottom, it's just glowing. I don't know what they are. We dropped our lines down one time. The best we've had there in current, which I love about there now actually, but was like around sort of 1.6 knots or 2 knots. It wasn't too bad. We're using 6 kilo of lead, so we had a 4 and a 2 kilo together, and we hit the bottom with the big me's. We're using the bigger reels out there, of course, and didn't see it. I thought we had a bite. I was with my mate Greg actually. Pulled up both, and our baits are gone. But I think in that depth, it's very hard to see bites because it's just too deep, too much water pressure, too much whatever. It's very hard to see. So we might have missed a fish, I don't know, but it doesn't matter when you're using circle because you don't strike anything. So the fish are going to hook up, they're going to hook up. So they could have been squid, take it in the bait, they could have been something else, we don't know. I have dropped a big squid jig out here in 500 metres. We used to be able to buy these really big squid jigs, they're like 25 centimetres long, about that fat, with big prongs on the back. And I dropped it down, I hung off the top of my snap, and something bit a perfect big bite out of it. Just I don't know, it didn't snap in half, but it's like that. So I'm guessing it's a Humboldt or some sort of big squid. My mates have told me they have caught, I believe they're Humboldt, they're big red squid out here, about, and here too, around sort of 6 or 8 kilo size. They're very aggressive. You put them in the bait tank and they eat the other squid. They're serious. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so it's untouched. Yeah. But if you look on those maps, has everybody got navionics on their phones? Who doesn't have navionics on their phone? Okay, you should get it on, mate, if you don't mind. It definitely is an advantage, and the new navionics boating is one with all the shading on it. So has anyone had all the shading yet? Okay, remember on the shading, the blue shading is inside 100 metres or up to 100 metres in most spots. And then when you go over 100 metres, it's still like all white. You have to go to relief shading. And that then brings up that side in the full detail.
It's really confusing, like the colours.
They should have it.
It looks like a mountain.
Yeah.
And then you actually drag your thing over it and you go, that's 2,000 metres of water, but it looks like it comes up the way it's all set up.
Yeah.
Once you start to realise, you can look at it and just, you can see that gorges and
that's right.
ravines and
There's heaps of stuff out there, that's right. So where it really drops off from sort of out here, around that 400 or 350 down to whatever, those edges of those ravines are all fish are. In all those ravines is where they are, or anything in between here and there. and then generally out there they'll run east-west, those ravines, but inside of that drop-off they run more north-south, or they're snaky. Okay. And they're about 20-metre drops sort of thing. Yeah, that's in this area here. Okay. I'll quickly watch this. Do you want to turn? I'll turn the light. Sorry, Oscar, do you mind just to turn that light off there, mate? Yeah, I think there's a little switch in it.
Do the commercial guys get into any of this fish?
They do. I'll tell you that in one sec. They do. They have is probably the word for it, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, chat about the swords or...
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll do that last actually. Yeah. Is it working? Mine's getting on. I think it's just warming up. Sorry guys, technical malfunction. Oh, here it comes. So just on the pro side of things. So yeah, over the years, I've actually worked with the guy out here, Bobby Gardner. He used to long line deep drop out here on all those mountains out here. It's back in the late 80s, early 90s. He had a 42-foot stepper, and they did really well. They pretty well cleaned it up. The fish have obviously come back. I think these days most of the guys are just chasing tuna and deep dropping, but there are a few commercial guys that electric reel fish as well. Because they don't have a quota, they go pretty hard. Yeah. But there's only a very few of them. But the best thing about it here is like 6 months a year you just can't fish it because of the current mainly. And then when you do have the good time when the current's not running, the weather's against you, so they're pretty protected. I think very protected fish.
Do these fish move around, or do you reckon it's,
I think they come from somewhere. Every fish out here works on water current, water temperature. So like the mackerel are very rarely here all the time. They come in, they start at the cans, and by the time they stay in that like 26 or 27 degree temperature, and move down the whole coastline with it. So when they get down to about Buckerheads or South Coast Rocks, then it starts to get 24 or 23 in summer. They're out of there. They come back up again, and they work back with that water temperature back north again. And snappers the same. Snapper don't come in really thick until it's about 20 degrees. So when it's 20 degrees out here, they'll be down south now where it's 20. That's what they sort of like 2019. When it gets like 18 or 16, it's too cold for them. So they'll nick off up this way where it's a bit cooler, a bit warmer, sorry. And then as it gets too hot, they go back that way again. So that's how everything works. Deep water fish, I'm unsure because down there it's pretty well cold all the time, I do think. Where I think the current pushes south, the warm current, maybe to, I don't know how deep down it goes. I'm not quite sure about that, if it's all the way, or just the top 20 or 30 or 40 metres. So it's a bit unknown actually, I'm not sure. But I dare think they're more residential fish that are here all the time. With some schools moving in and out. But we caught flame snapper here all year, in summer when we can get the most of the current. In winter, it doesn't matter. So they're there all the time.
Curly's a bit more...
Curlies are a bit more, yeah, they come, that's what kind of sound, like I've never put them deep, like I've been like 3-4 metres, I've never caught them ever. But they've got big eyes, they must live somewhere in deep and then come up in winter. Something, but traditionally May and June's the curly time of year. Then they'll taper off a little bit. They seem to like that water temperature it is now, and then they'll taper off once it gets sort of below 20. They seem to disappear a bit. They still catch them. They used to catch the numbers. Yeah. So this day here, I don't know which one this is. May 21st. So it's not very long ago. Oh, this is with Paul. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to play with Jack? So I'll just get Jack to stop every now and then. I'll just quickly explain something to you. Just a little bit, mate. Yeah. It's unbelievable. So you can see I'm still jigging while we're bottom fishing.
You posted this video up last week.
We did, yeah, that's right. So anyone not seen this video before? Yeah, you haven't seen it? Okay. If you don't mind watching it again, so
Yeah, right.
well, I'll explain to you as I go along. It's actually, just fast forward just a little bit, Jack, with the camera. It's probably to about a quarter of the way long.
Yeah.
I bet it is. So you can see the speed I got on there is probably, they got a little number on most of your reels, I'll tell you, like 30's the highest and you get 0 obviously. So I generally like to bring my fish up about 2/3 the way, around about that sort of 20 speed, makes sense, or 22. Which is not too fast but not too slow. Most of the time we find that the speed that you come up, particularly around the top here, if you're coming too fast and it stops too quick, I just drop one there doing exactly that. They fall off. So don't go just that too fast, because you will, when it stops, slows down quick, like gradual, they fall off because the pressure's stopped. So you either have your hand on the handle, so as soon as it stops, you keep momentum coming forward, just to be a bit closer to the boat.
Curly's release okay from the depth?
Oh, they're very unbelievably strong, incredible, yeah. They go straight back. Not that we're releasing this side, releasing the esky this side. Oh, see that one just fell off there?
Yeah.
See that? And that was a big one too. So you can't leave them sitting in the water too long. The curlies are very flicky. They tear the mouths as well, that's right. So that's why you can't come up too fast. So it's all relative.
Got a gap, or you better off with that?
No, I just lift from the boat. So I never gaff anything under about 6 kilos, like 7 kilos. I think. Just lift it. I think this might be a flaming. So 67 metres to go. With the reels, they're pretty durable, so I obviously don't like to travel in the chromium going fast and they get sprayed badly. If you've got nowhere else to put them, then put a cover on them. But preferably put them up in the front of the boat or down the side of the floor, wrapped up. But getting salt spray on them just generally is fine, as long as it's not too fast, driving too fast. Wind's the worst thing for reels, it drives the salt into the reel. Whether it be a Stella, whether it be that, or a Tiagra, it doesn't matter, it kills them.
How about tangles?
No, not too bad. Depends how bad you're driving the boat, reversing it. But generally speaking, if you're running the same weight, the same everything, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Both drop at the same time?
Yep. Drop at the same time is very important as well. That's the flaming. So that's sort of the average size flame snapper we get out here, which is around 4 kilos or 5 kilos. Has anyone eaten flame snapper yet? Chris, you might have eaten it. They're not too bad. They're like a rosy jobfish. So here you'll see the bite. You watch the tip. See that bite there? So I've got one fish on. And I know that's not too bad. That's the second fish just then. For some reason that particular day it went loose. I thought, oh crap, I've lost everything. Like, someone's not proving something right here. I was stressed. So I grabbed the lines to feel on it, but the buggers were swimming up with 2 kilos of lead. So we're in 280 metres here, I think, or 290 metres. And there's 2 fish on there going by that. You can sort of tell straight away. So you can see then I drop the speed back just a little bit. Because you get to know what's too fast and what's not right. Please, when you're fishing out there, you need 2 gas, guys. If you ever put a hand in cod's mouth, you understand what I'm talking about? You can't do it. You can do it, but you go right up to where the white part is, where the killer joins, onto the neck, throat. Go right up towards his, like put your hand up and it touches his teeth, you know. If you go anywhere back behind there, you're gone. They'll just grab onto your hand and impale you. Operate them and get him out, get your hand out. So you need 2 gas. Paul didn't have 2 gas. I think he's still got a bit of plastic on the end of that gaff too, by the way, right? Wouldn't surprise me.
That's the new boat, isn't it?
So that's the new boat, yeah. So see how the fish are still fairly going, they took off up that way, right? You see that? So, but when you get over 350 metres, that's when the eyes pop out of their head and it becomes a bit of the bends for them, you know?
So that release too well then?
Definitely not, mate. Straight to the esky.
Speaking of that, there's no size limit for any of the cod or blower?
No, so this is the thing. If you go to New South Wales, yeah, there is. In Queensland, the cod come under 5 cod, I think it is, and minimum size 35 centimetres, which is stupid, 38.
You're not getting any of that
I
size
never caught them under about a metre.
Well,
What's
you
that?
were,
Sorry?
we were at the 50s the other day.
Yep.
Pulled up a 35 barcode,
Yep.
but it was dead when we got to the surface.
Yeah, no, so that's a hard one. I think 35 is the length, 38, I can't remember which one it is. You need to check with the guys. That's just blamey.
It's really
Do you have the next one, mate? Next one. In the esky. Yeah, just be careful you size them. So long as you go by the rules, everything's good.
What would you do in that situation though? You pull up something
You
undersized.
gotta, it's up North Queensland, it's in the woods. You gotta throw it back. And it's float on the top. Bird food.
Back into the food chain.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Back to the food chain. But
Feel bad though, because you're throwing away like a
I know.
really eating fish.
well, that's exactly right.
You can eat that. Just because someone said it has to be
I know.
special.
It's quite
Baseball bat.
yeah. So this spot here, guys, I'll go through the spots here last. We'll do last. We're nearly done. That's a big flaming there, by the way. So that's in 120 metres, and that's off just north of Jumping Pin. And this spot, this particular day, actually wasn't on the charts, and what we always like to do on the side is we were finishing actually with. Was it you Brad, that day? Yeah, it was the day we got a king. I don't know, I think it was about 10 kilo, and we got busted on kings. We had been leader of a 150 pound boat, believe it or not. So we got done. So we went out further, and on the way to the flame sample spot, we only went about 4 or 5 k's. And we were both watching the soundings. We've got this bump come up with all fuzz on it, and the guys have rigged up with liveys for the kings. So I said, let's go back and just drop down. Look like kings on there, you know. So the boys dropped down the liveys, and straight away hooked these massive pearl perch. We're going, holy crap! So we straight away swung into electric mode, and dropped down our 3 hook rigs, and then both of us hooked up like 3 at a time, and Jack dropped down his jig, and Jack was on the jig as well, and that's when we had like 16 fish on deck before we even knew what we were doing, and they're all big, and then we got the bag on straight away real quick. But that spot I didn't know existed, and it was only a few k's and right fish all the time.
Is it
It was,
good? There's libraries that you said again?
yeah, so the liveys caught on that day as well. The pearl perch that day were really hungry, so every time I clean fish, I do like a biopsy on his guts, okay? Especially if it's got something in his guts. You guys probably do the same too. And so when I opened up all the fish, every fish that day, I cleaned them one until they had nothing in their guts, so full on empty. And the liveys were that they engulfed them so hard, they were right at the back of the tube, right at the back. I suppose you get live up this stuff that was in there. And that's just that one hook bait and they're on. That's how far it went up in size, they must have been. When we drop our, I'll just show you how big the cut up marbles is everywhere. So when we drop down our 3 hook rigs with the pillars and squid on for the pearlies that day, as soon as you hit the bottom and went out suck, which you'll see, they were already 3 fish on and hook themselves. Yeah, mac tuna is good too, but you need to scallop out the flesh, so it's only about 20 mil thick max, or 15 mil. And always cut your flesh fillets with the skin down, guys. If you do it the other way, you mush the meat up because you've got a blunt knife. No, it's a sense of blunt knife, exactly right, mate. That's spot on there, buddy. It's a suckable offence. So that's about the size we cut. So we're going to use that on South people as well.
So, to me though, that's a relatively
Small
bait.
Small bait, yeah, it is, mate, but big baits don't catch any fish. Yeah. So that's all. I was giving a hard time, so he's electric, and old mate's 75 and he's going hard on the bottom fishing. I felt so good. I should have said swap rods, mate.
What'd you get, mate?
Sorry.
Big pearl in?
You're a nice guy,
Well,
Liz.
that's a good size. I've got 2 pearlies. Oh, 3 actually. No, but do your ones, mate. So this is how you do it, guys. Like 1 and 2
and they just catch themselves.
Three.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a long day, long day.
I'd like to catch up with my mates. So Jax is always jigging all the time. He doesn't stop jigging.
Just only work the bottom, sort of 3 metres.
So you see the lines going down there, guys. So when I fish for pearlies in that sort of up to 130 metres, I use only a maximum of about a 2 pound sinker.
Mate.
I like to try and get over about 20 ounce if I can, it's a pound and a half,
Slow working left ball.
24 ounce, which is, I'll show you in a minute, the size there.
You're not reverse still, mate? Nothing right? No. Yeah, it's about, yeah.
Sorry, it's a bit all over the place. I'm not very good at doing this filming and stuff. So you see the lines still going down. As soon as someone asked before, I think Yoka hits the bottom, it stops straight away. You'll see the line stop. It will stop spinning. That's when he knows on the bottom. Because it goes down so fast, mate, with the weight of the sinker, it's quite easy to see it stop. It stops. So just wind up slack.
Yeah, you got something on. Everyone's on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think you got them on both the tennis and slow pitch jigs.
Yeah. Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the set rod there. Yeah, exactly.
Jack was great. So as you can see at the bottom straight away, the fish is
Nice
straight
fish,
on.
Tony.
That's what's like. So
We won't be here very long.
you can see the big fish.
Might have to just turn
This
it
is only a
off.
few weeks ago, okay?
Here comes your fish, Jack. It's
So
not too bad, Jack.
it's on my head, so it's everywhere.
Well done,
You
Jack,
got
on
a
the jig.
360 camera.
Yes, Jack.
Is there a 360 one?
Yeah, you just plug it in the back and then you
Tony,
can
look at
just
this.
zoom in on
Oh,
whatever
true.
section
We
you
use it
want.
through, yeah.
Oh,
You set it up in the rod holder.
Is that a GoPro one? Or?
Yeah, we want a new GoPro.
Yeah, that must be the one. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
Jack,
the
Jack,
GoPro one's
Jack got a nice one jig too.
360. Is that a 9 or an 8?
No, it's called
GoPro is 360.
Yeah, GoPro Max.
Lester.
Oh, yeah.
Get in there.
Yeah,
But there's more, Dentel.
that's it. So it's just like that. And yeah.
How you going there, Jack? You're bottom, is it?
And as I said, we didn't know this spot existed, we just found it. So sometimes it pays, one, you don't burn much fuel. If you've got the time, don't go too fast. Just try and get to that speed, you can still see the bottom. You're zoomed in a bit, you're watching it, and constantly watch at the bottom. I know you talk with your mates, but just look at the screen. And
I've been obsessed with
you
belts
can
for a
turn
long
off, mate,
time.
that's fine, thanks, Jack. Cheers, buddy.
There was like 3
You can
things.
turn the light back on. Thank you, Jack. Thanks, Ross. Cheers, mate. Thanks, Chris.
You don't turn anything on?
So constantly look at the bottom and find your new spots. And because every year, like that day with Paul, we had I don't know if you know the guy's not here, but we were fishing away and before we started fishing away, we were heading into our spot. We went past the guys jigging and on the Kingy Reef that day, and I said to Paul, my mark's about another 3 or 4k out further, so we keep going past them. Sort of a bit of a wide berth around them actually, and there was another guy sitting really close to where I fish, and I thought, oh, I'll sacrifice and go a bit further, about 2k out further again. We've got marks everywhere, so we kept on going up further, and we stopped. And I don't know Paul's boat. It's only a brand new boat. No one's seen him have that boat yet, I don't think. It's the first trip out wide, and anyhow, the guy was sitting over there 2k's away, comes straight up to us, and we just dropped our lines down, hooked up straight away, and stopped about, I don't know, probably from here to the closest car park just at the front end, like 30 metres away, 20 metres away, and turned his back to us and started jigging like this. Oh, I said to us, it's incredible. And because you get 2 boats, then those 5 boats that were all jigging, 2 of those come out. And then we had 4 boats. And then another guy I don't know where he was from, but he just rocked up. 5 boats. I said, Paul, we got to shake them off. So we took off, we went about, our next spot was 10k's away, it's a fair way up north. So one guy followed us for a fair bit, and at about 4k's he dropped off. And we just kept going there. And then we pulled up and we smashed him in there. So. But yeah, I don't mind guys following me. Like you guys, I don't mind, and you guys are okay too. But I don't mind. But it's just that I just don't like people coming like right next to, unless you say come fish next to me.
Yeah.
there's a bit of ethics about it.
My dad used to have a number 10 sinker on 50 metres of line, 200-pound line.
Is that right?
If he could reach them, then
Oh,
they
like
were too close.
Like a life with the stone.
Throw it at them.
Jeez. So that's a 24-ounce sinker. So I'll pass these around. I might want lead in your hands. Actually, I won't pass it around. But that's it. That's the 2 pound sinker. That's what I like to use at the most on the Perla reset, about 130 metres. Okay. If you can get away with it, your standard 16 ounces fine, especially if you're using the hand by hand. But remember, the electric reels don't feel the pain we do winding sinkers up. So use heavy line. Simple as that. Heavy sinker, sorry. Heavy sinker.
Is there somewhere you can get those?
Yeah, we have
2
mould.
kilo and 4 kilo molds?
We have moulds up to 2 pound, which is about a kilo, but we don't have these ones known. And I've been trying to get the moulds, but I can't get them at this stage. Yeah. And the guy that we buy these off, he said he had to get the moulds made. So I'm not sure. Yeah, my dad actually made a mould for us out of water pipe and welded and hinged it together with clamps on it and pour it at the top of that. And he welded the bottom so it's conical shaped, so it sinks like a plumb bob sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. But that thing there is okay, but they don't sink as good as that shape.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot better. It gets a little bit of resistance on the way down, I guess.
You can make them like that Jeep, make it like really flat.
Yeah, that would be the go, mate. Exactly right. Or some guys, like when it gets to the price of these things, you might as well use a jig as the sinker. But I think pulling the baits down is going to lose a bit of its inertia. Yeah. So any questions on that at all, guys? Okay, quickly go through the marks now, then we're done. So I know this doesn't apply to you, Chris, but I'll just get some idea of it, mate. So what I've done, guys, all of these marks catch fish. Most of these are what I call my okay marks. Some are my good marks, and some are very close to my good marks. You guys need to look around, okay? So they're all in north-south order. I know they're not actually, but they're pretty close to it. But starting at the top there, 2729, that's up around just south of Point Lookout, and this is really good flame snapper country, okay? So 2729, 153.23. 53. Sorry, my glasses on. I've got my glasses on. 153.53 or 52.991, which is close to 53. That's in around about 280 metres. I can tell you that now. As you go a little bit, the next one, you go a little tiny bit south, going by the numbers, and a little tiny bit more east. That's probably about a good 280 metres. The next one is further south again, but back inside. That's probably about 270 metres, 280 metres. That's all that same ridge, okay? The next one is 5 miles south of the first marks we just talked about. And that mark I was telling you about, that's that trench, that's around that area there, okay? So if you look at that thing you got there, Chris, it'll be pretty close to it, I think.
So that's on the second line?
The second line, yep, 2735 and 153.54 roundabout. So you get about 350 metres. 27, if you go across to the sixth one, the sixth one is 2739, so that's about 2740, which is just north of Jumping Pin Bar, and you're in about 450 metres there. I think that might actually be north of Jim's, around Jimmy's Mountain actually, that one. Then the next one, 2754, this is all Riviera Grounds. The next 3 are Riviera Grounds area. So Riviera Grounds is quite a big area out here. It's the closest to the seaway without going too far that way or that way. It's like slight angle north. It's about 52k run, I think, or 53k run from the seaway. Those other spots on the top up there are around about 65k run. Okay. People stress about the distance that they're travelling, but you know, if you go the further north, you go further south you go, for them to go 20k's is like going out wide, you know, going out 20k's. You go out to, say, Bundaberg, they go 80 or 100k's, that's their out to the reef, out to the outside reef or whatever, from Bundy up to Musgrave, whatever. When you go to Airlie Beach, those guys go 120k's, that's the average trip. go to Townsville, it's 140, 160 k's of Bowen. So that, and they're only got 6 metre boats, single motor. It's just what you're used to, what you trust, and what you know your element is before you get a bit stressed. So when each time you go here, please don't go straight up to the furthest one here. Work out what you think you can do, what your boat can do. When you know that, then you can work your way out further and further. If you feel confident straight away, go for it. Just remember, the worst wind out here is a westerly wind, okay? It's the worst wind on the whole east coast. So it looks nice at Seaway, but it's not nice out as far when you get out of your distance. And the westerly wind, to give you some idea, it'll be about 15 knots. If it's blowing 15 knots at Seaway, it's probably going to be blowing 25 out at 50 fathoms. And out there it's probably blowing a good 30. As it comes over Springbrook and over Tambourine, it hits the water at around really bad at about 200 metres too. Hits really bad straight away, but it's really, really bad out there.
What prevailing winds are the best for?
Best winds is under 10 knots. But prevailing wise, unfortunately, we're in like a bay here. People don't realise that either. But Point Lookout to Point Danger, we're in a big bay here, and we're about 20 k's inside that bay nearly. If that makes sense, if you run a straight line between those two areas. So once you get out to about 75 metres, or 80 metres, that southerly or that northerly that was a bit prevailing, all of a sudden swings around from southwest to dead set southerly. Because it's just a straight wind from down Antarctica way. Actually, when you get out, it's a little bit further around 100 metres. We're actually protected a little bit, tiny bit from from Byron Bay. But once you get out past that, it's just really true southerly. So the swell changes, the wind changes again.
So any direction really, but just like it's under 10 knots.
That's correct.
Those west of lot, weather.
Sorry, mate?
Westerly's out because we get.
Westerly's out, 100%. Yeah,
We get a lot of westerlies in winter.
you do. So you got to have light winds, like you know it's going to blow over
For sure.
maximum 15 knots, 10 knots preferably in westerly. Southerly 10 to 15 is fine, except for in summer when you got current. If you got 3 knots of current and a southerly wind of 15, maybe pick up to 20. It's like a westerly wind. It hits the current, it stands it up, and the waves break. So I've been out there, out in Rivergo Flamestown fishing in 280 metres. My mate's 38 foot O'Grady, and I was driving, and we had about, it was in summer, we had like 3.5 knots of current, it was ripping, and we had about, watching your GPS, you got like 10 k's to go, 6 k's to go, 3 k's to go. It's getting so bad, you're thinking, it's got 2 k's to go, I can do this. Well, at least we'll get there, try, you know. Anyhow, we're like 2 point something k's to go, and then all of a sudden, I've never seen it for my life, but the whole wave, about probably 200 metres in front of me, or 300 metres in front of me, and there's big swells, about 3 metre swell, so 3 metre swell, 20 knots southerly, and about 3.5 knots of current, and the whole 1.5 metres to the top of the wave broke like a big surf break for about 300 metres, white water the way along, and rolled down in the front. And I thought, like, if we had just been in that area, it would have even rolled us, I think. And for those of you who've been out in I know Chris might have been in game comps, you know how it works, Chris. It's like sitting in the bar when it's breaking.
Yeah, we've fallen off the fly bridge.
Have you?
Yeah, we dropped off the wave and we fell off the fly bridge.
Serious?
No broken bones.
Oh,
It's only the black rock with the,
Yeah. But they full on break, like they break like you're in the surf, and that's what tips boats over and fills them up with water or whatever. So my suggestion is anything over 3 knots of current, unless it's no more than 10 knots of wind, it's fine. Okay, it's over strong current, and if it's westerly, fish at 12,000 reef or something. Forget your bait or whatever.
Is there any good sites, like is it on Bolton that has like current maps?
Yeah, there is. So the one that's on that last page, yeah, Menlo's good too, but this one's really good too, and it's free. So, hang on a sec. I need to get my phone, but I can't get my phone. It's on bomb.gov.au. And I can't remember what it's called. Did I send that to anyone at all here? No.
You showed me.
Just like sea currents.
Yeah, okay, it's 300 something or other. Something or other. I got it, but I'll send it to you, okay? So it's a free chart, and it's really good. Actually, Jack, can you bring it up on there, mate? I think you can. Is that to the net?
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Is it? Can you give me 1 minute, guys? I know time's going, but
Just real quickly.
Yeah, this thing's fantastic because it gives you 4 days interval as well, or 5 days. So you can actually see what the current's doing right now, and then you can see projection over the next 5 days, and you can see current coming or an upwelling. If you're going to go chase yellowfin tuna, it's fantastic. It shows the current swing back the other way, and it actually gets cooler. The water gets cooler.
Rip charts.
Rip charts is the same sort of rip charts. It doesn't show any definition at the bottom though.
Yeah.
Rip charts do.
These rip charts, you just put all your overlays on.
Yeah, but the rip charts are like $200 a year or something, or whatever.
It's June.
Good on Jack. It's a bit of a bum steer this one, isn't it? Sorry about that. Okay, so Jack's going to turn it on. You can see it here, guys. I'll just quickly play for you how it works. Ross, do you mind flick those lights off, buddy? Sorry, mate, if you don't mind.
Standing before here, mate.
Oh, sorry, mate. Thanks, Chris. It's coming. So this is what I use, this one here. And obviously, I can't zoom in on here because it's not my phone, but I zoom into our area, which is where that little icon is there. So you can see that current there is a long way to see, guys. It's like probably about 1,000 meters or so. But there is no current. Where my arrow is up and down here now, that's normally 2 months ago just like red. It's like red, okay? In January at times it's purple, which is 3 knots plus. But at the moment there's nothing. So if I go over here, and I click on this one, just bring it back down, you can see what the current's doing there. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can see there's a little bit of current going north actually, which is what I hate. But I don't mind it when it's blowing 30 knots and going north. That's okay. But we're not going to be out there fishing in here. So hopefully that bit of northerly current is going with the arrows, it's facing up. That's good for tuna fishing, but not good for us. So there's no current. It's been on that where it's like was there today. That white, it's been on that for about 2 weeks now. Very unusual. But we always had a bit of current, but I haven't seen that for years. Okay, so that's, if you can see, it's on bond.gov.au, and you click on sea temperature and current, and you click on current, so you see currents. See that there? Can you see that? Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, so marine and ocean, then sea temperature and currents, and then go down here, click on currents, then over the right side there, top right hand side. Is that all good? Thanks, guys. So get that, it's free and it works extremely good and it's never failed us yet. If you want all that way out, trust it's going to be 1.5 knots, and it is 1.5 knots, okay, generally speaking. Thanks, Jack. The other stuff on there is the Navionics app, if you don't have that on your phone yet. It's about $37 a year, good investment. Now Bathy Maps, I put Bathy Maps Premium on because Bathy Maps is like a more detailed view of your of your Navionics app. It's the next step better, but it's quite expensive, about $80 a year. It just shows a bit more detail again. Okay, so we have that 350 metre spot actually. It did coincide with the CMAP reveal, but that's also we use that off both your maps as well. So, any questions on that at all?
Is the Garmin,
Yeah, Garmin.
stuff, is that the same as the
Yeah, exactly the same, mate. They're all using the same technology now, but the only one that's one step higher, I think, is that new Furuno 3D mapping. But I think Garmin's caught up with them too, right?
I reckon Garmin's the clearest of them.
Clearest is it? Yeah. Yeah, I think the new Garmin stuff just come out, right?
Navionics is powered by Garmin, so.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very similar. But what's the Garmin one? They've got a name for it.
Reveal, is it,
That CMAP reveal is
Blue
Navionics.
Vision?
It's got a name.
Blue
I don't
Vision G3, something.
Yeah, okay.
I was talking to.
It's like 3D, right? Looking at pictures like 3D. Yeah.
I was talking to a mate, he was saying that Navionics, and if you read it, Navionics is powered by Garmin, so you can go,
Right.
if you've got the sounder that links to your phone or
Yeah,
whatever, you
yeah.
can go onto your Navionics and sit there one night, mark 1,000 spots, and then just transfer them straight to your
Oh,
sounder.
right. Okay. Yeah.
And it straight transfers
Oh,
across.
I'd like to do that.
They talk to each other.
Right. Okay.
fantastically.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But.
Yeah.
Work with other.
Sounds good. Sounds good, mate. Well, so guys, do some study on that. But getting down to our marks again, down the bottom of the page there. All of those two bottom rows are very similar area to each other, within a few miles anyhow.
So they're the rib marks that you...
The rib marks are around that 2750 area, but then the last row where it goes 2745, we're back up the Jim's Mountain again for some reason. We got pushed in the wrong spot. That's Jim's Mountain, I can tell you that now. The next one there, 2752, is there's another little, I think it's called, it's got a name. Where Riviera Grounds are, there's another mountain. It's on you'll see it on your charts we were talking about 4 or 5k southeast of Riviera Grounds, and it comes from about 600 up to about 500. They're like big boulders sitting on the bottom, but they're about a k across, sort of. And that's there. Could be bigger than there's rock. The next page, go to the next page, guys. There is one in the middle there, 2002, 153.55. That's where we fish for bar cod there. I haven't got flame snapper there yet, but that's not a bad area. That's in about 300 metres, I think. Here it is on the bottom, 310, sorry. 300 metres. Then the next grounds there is off Tweed, so there's a bit of a gap. I'm still trying to find new grounds out straight at the front here. Trouble is you've got so many good grounds that way, and that way that's where we always go. 2810, you're getting down around straight east of Tweed. At the top end, before the canyons even start, off Tweed heads. 2813 is where the canyons start. If you look at the Tweed Canyons, it's the most undulating, amazing bottom off the Gold Coast. We call it off the Gold Coast because it sounds good, but it's actually down south of the border. 2814, it's all the way down that area. It's a bit mixed up, these guys. You've got to put them on the GPS because we're back up to inside of the third row down. We're back inside of just inside of Jim's Mountain, where I fished there for flame snapper and bar cod in 300 metres. Great blue marlin spot area too. Then the third one on the third row down, third one across, we're back out to that's full on blue eye country and bass. And that's in about 450, 500 metres. Some of these I haven't named. I have named that one there, Blue Eye and Bass Groper, but I've definitely caught both there. That's down off sort of probably Hastings Point. Does anyone here fish south of the border at all? It's really good country. Obviously fish there, made it all right? Yeah. So there's really good flame snappers down there as well. Sort of south, anywhere south. Well, I do get off Tweed Heads too, but more down south of, say, Fingal or that area. And you get rubies in closer down there, like 380 metres. Yeah. I haven't got one yet myself, but I know my customers have. Yeah. And does anyone fish that 200 metre, 220 metre mark off Tweed at all? Do you guys know about that at all? You should know about it. It's really good with this stuff. So there's a big long, a lot of people say it's when, I don't know how they know, but when Mount Warning exploded on the east side of it, all disappeared, as you know, it was like a big volcano. It landed out in the water somewhere in there. That's what they say, but I think that's all bullshit. But yeah. Sorry.
Good story, but.
Yeah, it's a long story. That it is. But because it's just like a big dump of rocks on the bottom, and it goes for about 10 k's long. Okay, and it's sort of covered, and then it's not covered. But most of it's about probably 500 metres wide, and it's in about from 220 comes up to like 200. So it's like 20 metre rise or 15 metre rise in most of it, and then just goes like that, and it's just all the way along. I don't think they've dived it, so I don't know how they know it's just rocks sitting on the sand. But anyhow, it's a good reef. I know that. So down there we catch all the usual snappers. It's unbelievable for kingfish. You want to catch kingies, that's the spot. If you ever caught kingies, if you've never caught a kingie in 200 metres plus, the taste is very different to the inshore kingies. Very fat. So if you're into sashimi, it's the best. Like, there's so much fat in the meat. It's really nice. And the kingies there will sort of average about 8 kilo, I guess. Yeah, fairly decent size, or bigger. Snapper are always good. They're always like 60 centimetre average or bigger. You get a lot of those orange and pink sea perch, which are about 1 to 3 kilos. Really nice to eat. So, but you get the odd bar cod there, but I haven't caught many bar cod. But you just go out 1k and in 280 metres, it drops off so quick down there. So 3k is out, you're in 500 metres from 200 to 500. It's very quick. So there's lots of shelving on that edge, and so that's why you see these gradients are pretty close to the marks down here. And so we'll get some snapper, and then we'll go, okay, let's get barcod, just go to K that way and we're catching barcod. Let's get some try for blue eye. So we'll go out another couple of Ks and we're in 500 metres, and the edge then goes all the way down to Byron. So there's so much ground down there, it's incredible. But you need a New South Wales fishing licence. If you're going to get it, get your 3-year one, $75. Okay. Yeah. And just make sure you got to stick by their limits, and you got to stick by our limits when you come back in the seaway. So you got to double do the limits thing. So some sizes are different. I think New South Wales is more forgiving on the size of their fish, smaller.
New South Wales, you're like 5 kings per person.
2 up here. Yeah.
Up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, mate fell out of the boat. No. So, whatever it is. He was there, but he's. Where are you? Anyhow, hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys. But yeah, that's about it, guys. So you understand all the gear. Please make your rigs up. To make your rigs up is much cheaper than buying them. The reason why they're $30 or $40 a rig is because they take us 20 minutes to make one. So. Or even longer sometimes. So for you guys to make it up, the cost to buy the material is probably about $8 to $10 to make one. So it's a lot cheaper. Just go sit down a few beers and make some up. That's probably about all I need to tell you, I think. No other questions at all?
What's the sort of like, I know you talk about the moon phases,
Yeah.
fishing times. What if there was an ideal moon phase, if you're seeing
Okay,
day, what time?
I'll be fishing with the moon. The Skywatch moon is a dark moon. So, yeah, so that moon comes up in the morning and it's there. So imagine the full moon now. You want about 3 days before the new moon. So the full moon sort of comes up now at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night, and it goes down at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
We want that with the new moon comes up at 6 in the morning, down at 6 at night.
So if the moon's down, you wouldn't go, is what you're saying, or no?
Well, I do. I still get fish, but I get better bite periods. So those days when we can only get out because the weather's only on that day, or it's the only chance I can get to go fishing, we'll still go, of course, if the weather's good. But I'll just have to wait. So I'll still go early because you always get an early morning bite. And certain species it doesn't really affect, like kingies, maybe a bit of jig or whatever. But you'll know the pearl is going to come on at 11 o'clock that day because that's when the moon rises. So we'll just do what we want to do, and then 11 o'clock we'll be ready. And it's guaranteed. Yeah. And even some days it might be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll just muck around and maybe find new grounds, might get a few fish here, and it gets a good fish, but just not the bite, the crazy bite. And then on the way back, we'll hit a good spot at 1 o'clock when the moon's rising, and next minute, wham, bam, you're on, It's like fail safe, it works. True.
Is that a net pressure useful?
Yeah, so under 1,010, 1,015, I don't really like to fish too much offshore or anything.
20 fish maybe.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's not with the southerly wind, unfortunately. But yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah, so anything 1,020 above is good. Which is generally a high above us or a bit of southerly blowing. Brody's touched point before with swordfish. So my goal is always been to try and catch a swordfish out here, and we hear a lot of swordfish getting caught. Not a lot, but a few getting caught. But they're always the little ones like this. Only once have we thought we caught a swordfish, which is in 280 metres or something. Yeah, the blue marlin there. And we were on the bite, and with the swordfish, what I do is a lot of time with my snap here, I run a squid rigged up with a glow stick in and all that sort of crap, hanging off here, and then my rig's down below that, and that's just sitting there. And this particular day, we were fishing, and I watch a lot of things on swordfish, trying to work out how they do it. And this bite was like just like that, and then let go, and then it went like that again, and then let go, and then it sort of loaded up, and then it really loaded up, and I thought, this is it, we're on, guys. This has got to be a swordfish, because it's not a normal like bang 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 bite, you know. And anyhow, my mate Andrew, was it Andrew? Yeah, it was Andrew. Yeah, Andrew. He hooked up a nice cod, about 30 kilos. We got to the top as well, but he hooked up a cod at the same time, and our lines are so close to the back of the boat, and I'm got mine coming up. It's like pulling hard, you know. And then Andrew's like, and then my lines went like that, and I thought, you bastard, you cut me off. There's two braids touch each other's all over, you know. One of you's going to go, and I thought that was me. So I said that Liam was in the boat, my other son. I said, Liam, push the button, mate. Just wind it up. He's cut us off. So we've wound it up. It's going, coming about 100 miles an hour, and then at about 100 metres. The rod just was swung around to that way over there. It's not the big one, but not the light rod's the big rod, by the way. And the rod swung around, and I see this thing. I look straight on the horizon, and here's this bill and this thing thrash. So it's like, we're like high five and getting the flying gaff out. And we're like, this is it. We've got this big sword, you know. And like we knew it was at least 100 kilos. And then anyhow, then it went back down again, and this is you just let it play, it just fights it, you know. And then come back up, and then went back down, and then finally it come up a bit enough to see this big silver thing, and we go, oh my gosh, this is it. We were actually stayed at the back of the flying gaff, I think. And it went back down again, and then it didn't do anything, and it died. And then I thought, oh, it doesn't matter, just wind it up. You know, so we winched it up. It was quite heavy to winch it up, got it up, and it was a freaking blue marlin. So the blue marlin took the bottom bait right down the bottom. Anyhow, it was dead, so it was around about 120, 140 kilos. It's been a good sized swordfish, it was a swordfish. Brought it back, and we cut its gut open, and it was full of all bottom fish that had been feeding on the bottom. So it's quite amazing. And I don't know if you knew that, Chris, they feed on the bottom, but they do feed on the bottom. Yeah, it had a big rosy jobfish, bigger than I've ever caught it, a proper rosy, about 3 kilo, and one of those pink, a pearl sea perch thing in its gut. Yeah, couldn't believe it. We got all the photos too, but yeah. But anyhow, so I haven't got a swordfish yet. So if you guys get one for me, I'll be very disappointed. Let you know that.
What depths of the offers are you looking for?
Oh, I really anything from about 250 to 600 or more. Yeah, but
Stitched squid.
I just put a big squid on the sipples that with a hook in the head and a hook in the helmet, and one just above the head. Let him pull the head off. Yeah. And using circle hooks. Some guys say use J's. I think all the pros use the circles. I'll stick with circles, but the bigger, heavier, like we use in the blue eye. Yeah.
Are you still running like a little belly bag near the line?
Yeah, so I've done that too. It's really funny, you know. I use an orange burley bag, like the one you use on your crab pots or span crab pots, like an orange wire mesh bag. I fill it with pilchards because they can give the most stuff out. Brought a bit of tuna roll on, it's a bit messy in the boat though, and it clips off the clippers again and just sits at the top. But every time it comes up, I see this orange thing. It feels like I got a span crab in the line, but it's the burley bag. Does it do any better? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to know, but that's why I put the pill shit onto my hook as the burley. Another thing too is, do lights work? Do they not work? I believe they do work. But the other day, Paul, I gave him a light to use, and I put it on his seat. And at the end of the day, after we caught his fish, I went to sit down. This light's on the seat. I said, "Did you put that on the line?" He goes, "I didn't know you gave me one." So I'm fishing a light all day. He's fishing no light because so many fish. So, but
They were chewing.
They're on,
but
they're on.
I should have told that after he bought the lights. But yeah, they're very good.
With those other jigs there,
The can style.
yeah,
Style.
would you put any like scent on them?
No, sometimes Jack cheats to put a bit of bait on there. Sometimes things are a bit quiet. But when they're on, you don't need to.
Yeah, right.
That skirt sort of flutters around, and they tend to whack those on the fall a lot more than your normal type jig.
Yeah.
Before it even gets to the bottom, you go to one suck and it's already on
Yeah, okay.
there. Yeah. But there are guys too that drop to the bottom, stick the rod hold and catch lots of fish too.
And just the standard assist hooks that on them, or do you change them up?
No, they're pretty good. They come with always a good, generally drill assist hooks, and they're perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is it stopped? Yeah, it stopped. See ya. That's it. Yeah. So, guys, that's probably about it. So, any other questions at all? Yeah, right now. I know you guys got to work. If those here driven on weight, sorry, Chris.
Sorry, just one
Yeah.
more bait, like, if you use yakka or anything. like
Okay,
that,
so
or
that's a good question too. We have tried live baits many times.
do they stay alive?
No, they do. They come with a bit sore headache, but they don't come back. They still see the kick.
Yeah.
So they must be hurting. But I don't get any more fish on live baits, and I find they get pulled up quite easy.
Yeah.
You don't hook up as good.
Yeah.
And you would don't sit there and bridle them up with the rod bands too hard, you know. So we just find, seriously, we've tried everything. Mullet's the best. I do keep all my mackerel and my kings and stuff like that. I'll keep the white part, the belly part, yep. And use that. It's very good. It's very good. Yeah. Okay, so keep those belly strips on all your kingies, mackerel and stuff like that, guys. Okay. It's about the size of that.
The belly flap.
The belly flap, yeah, the piece that you cut the fillet to the side of. Yeah. Or if you cut out that section when you fill in fish, just keep that strip. Put it in the freezer and make sure the wife doesn't cook it up. No other questions at all? No? So I hope you guys get into, I hope you do well and get a few. But I think you guys are welcome to follow us out one day, I don't mind. You can follow, if you're in the area, follow us out. I know you can't, Chris, sorry mate. But Chris is from Sunshine Coast? Yeah, so you're fishing off Noosa or down?
Just off Maroochydore.
Yeah, Maroochydore, yeah. You got probably better grounds than we have up that way.
It's good out there,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, and you got like 60, I think we worked out 50 or 60k run, so even probably a bit, similar to us, a bit closer maybe, yeah. Okay, first one. So first one tonight is a big spill braid and a bit of other stuff, about 300 something bucks worth. And it goes to number 12, which is, sorry, glasses.
Can't read it.
Yoga. Well done, matey. That's you.
Can't catch fish, bro.
You can win stuff. Okay, next one is number 2, which is nearly 200 bucks worth, I think. So guys, when we're fishing like in the pearls, we're using 50-pound braid, okay? Just to let you know that. Thanks, Joe. Number 15, which is Chris, one of the two Chris's, Percy. That's you. Oh, sorry, mate. That's you, matey.
Thank you.
Well done, mate. Next one. We just got braid tonight, but it's fair braid. Is number 10, Luke Vesco. Luke, Luke, yours mate was coming, right?
Yeah, we're going to.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We're supposed to be getting a boat today. And
There you go, mate. What sort of race are you getting?
I didn't have that much attention.
Okay. Is that right? Oh, serious. Second-hand one?
Yeah.
No, that's not good.
Nah.
Better point it out,
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Okay, next one. It's around $30 worth or something. Number 16, Craig Dixon. Yeah, Craig. Well done, buddy. Next one. Getting down to the nitty-gritties now, guys. For those of you who didn't win, I'm sorry. So, guys, on the rosin reels, we will do you a better deal than you can get online till the next seminar, which is 2 weeks away, if you're after anything. For those of you who already got your rods, you got them at that price, so you know what I'm talking about. Number 6, David Stewart. Hey, Dave. Oh, Dave, that's right, Dave. But David's got his rigging gear the other day. He started rigging up yet, mate? No. You started rigging up yet?
Yeah. Put them all together. It took me more than 20 minutes the first one. I was
Are you getting it down to 20 minutes now?
20 hours.
Well done, mate. Okay, last one. So, guys, we will be open for another hour or 50 minutes. If you want to grab anything, you're welcome to. If not, please drive home safely. It's number 7, Chris Daniel. That is you, Chris. I'm pleased you got the dress, mate. Thanks, mate. Cheers. So, everyone, thanks for coming along. And if you want to talk to Jack or anything about jigging, he's the man to speak to. Oh, I can do it too. And Jack also bottom fishes electrics. He knows all that as well. He's my son, so he's been doing it since he was a baby. And if we can help you anyway, please ask us. And good luck out there. Just be safe, because you have a long way there, guys. And current Wesleys, just remember the two dangerous things, okay? Yes, mate?
Have you ever done it in the evening?
Yeah, I have. So we've stayed out till dark a couple of times, actually. And it's the same as like fishing on 50 fathoms. We've done the same there too. You will get fish up till dark. You find the flame snapper bite really good in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But once it gets near dark, they just switch off. I don't know what happens, but they switch off. Yeah. They hide is probably the exact right thing. Yeah.
Then fish the full moon at night.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As the gentleman said, that's because we're fishing on the dark moon, so it's just set, right? They just switch off, so it's the other way around.
Yeah, because we fish the light till 10 or 11 at night.
Yeah, on the moon though, mate.
Full.
Yeah, that's right. So believe it or not, we actually fished. You know, last night was a eclipse moon.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago, talking back in the late 70s maybe, with my dad. We used to get across the old bar at night, and come back in at night, which is a bit of a loony bin here. I was just hang on and close my eyes and hope for the best. But we were out here one night just chasing trag, and we had an eclipse that night, I remember, and they bit like you would not believe for about an hour period. Like those days, there's no bags on it. I remember we got a lot. So, and they were big ones, and I understand the moon is very important at night time. Like we fish with jewies at night offshore all the time, and big jewies, and the moon is like that. So you're right. So daytime, you probably want that moon coming up. So probably about 5 or 6 days before the full moon. So the moon comes up at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then fish until whenever. Yeah. We'll try it. I'll give it a go. Yeah, I'll let you know. Okay, thanks guys. Come downstairs, and welcome to talk me downstairs. Thank you. Thanks for putting up the uncomfortable chairs. Yeah, good. I'll come back. That's fine. Yeah. Oh, there's a couple of thanks a lot, mate. Thank you.